Today, we're going to be talking about a really hot topic for buyers and sellers. We're going to be talking about whether or not you want to buy a home in an HOA community. So if you've been thinking about making a move to the Central Florida or Orlando area, and you've been wondering whether or not you should buy in an area that has an HOA, stay tuned because we're going to be going over the pros and cons of an HOA. I'm Alexis Nickley, owner of the Nickley Group, and whether you are thinking about making a move today or in the future, we want to be a resource for you along the way. So if you have any questions pertaining to this video or questions in general about the home buying process, we would love to connect with you. Go ahead and contact us at the information listed below, and don't forget to tap that like and subscribe button. Let's dive in. I know some people feel very strongly about HOAs. That is one thing buyers will bring up to us. So what I want to do is I want to go over both the positives and the negatives of living in an HOA. Let's start off with the positives. One of the positives of living in an HOA is all of the amenities that typically can come with an HOA. So for example, a pool. If you want a house with a pool, but let's say you don't want that $20,000 added in your purchase price in your backyard, then you can have access to a community pool that you can go to every single day. Some of the HOA communities over here in Central Florida have a ton of amenities such as pools, clubhouses, tennis courts. We even have pickleball is really growing in the Central Florida area. We have communities with pickleball courts and of course fitness centers. So if you're looking for an area where you may not necessarily want to pay for that pool in your backyard and have to pay that in your purchase price, because pools add to values of homes, you can get access to all of those amazing amenities right in your neighborhood. The community events. Some of our communities out here, especially when I think of like the Winter Garden, Lake Nona area, those communities have amazing community events where you have food trucks, the entire neighborhood comes. So if you're moving from out of state, or maybe you're just looking to live in an area where you get to know your neighbors and you're passionate about that, then consider living in an area with an HOA, because that's where you're gonna find those community events. The next positive about living in an HOA community is the security that can be involved in that. Some part of the HOA fee can be because you're living in an area that has a gated community, meaning that there's a gate that you have to enter a code, or there's even a security guard at the front. So if you're very interested in living in an area that has a gated community, you're going to be paying an HOA, and I find that to be really positive. You're gonna have your property value protected. And what I mean by that is, in an area where there's no deed restrictions, your neighbor can do whatever they want to their home. So if they want to put polka dots on their home, they want to paint their house a crazy color, they want to have a toilet in their front yard, something insane, well, they can do that in an area where there's no rules and regulations. In an HOA community, you're typically going to have deed restrictions, and you're going to find that there's rules and regulations around what that home is going to look like. So when you buy that property and you go to sell it in the future, you never have to be concerned about your neighbors or your property value. You have a built-in system for conflict resolution. So for example, if you have a neighbor that moves in and maybe they get a bunch of chickens in their backyard and they're clucking all night and it's keeping you up, and you want those chickens to go because number one, they're not supposed to have them, and number two, you want to sleep at night. Well, instead of you having to go to your neighbor and having to deal with that conflict and having to deal with this situation face to face, now you have an HOA that you can go to express your concerns and let them handle the process for you. Over here in Central Florida, we are known for our theme parks. So with that being said, we are a tourist destination, and there are areas in Central Florida where you can do short-term rentals. Well, for some people, they love it and that's great. For others, like I mentioned before, they want to move into a community where they get to know their neighbors. They want to know who's living next to them. They want to know who's living across the street. In a short-term rental area, that changes weekly, sometimes even every few days. So when you have an HOA, that HOA is going to have lease restrictions in place. So if you find that you don't want to be in a short-term rental area and you want to make sure that you're having neighbors that are the same throughout the entire year, having an HOA is beneficial because they're the ones that are going to enforce those rules for you. All right, so let's talk about some of the reasons you may decide you don't want to move into an area with the HOA. The first thing that I want to talk about are the fees associated with HOAs. Over here in Central Florida in the Orlando area, you can find HOA fees as low as $10 a month to sometimes over $1,000 per month. And that can be a very hefty payment depending on the type of community that you're looking into. The other aspect of that is keep in mind if you are financing, they do have to take into consideration those monthly fees. So if you move into an area with a high HOA fee, that's going to affect your purchase price and buying power. So something to consider when you're looking at areas with an HOA and determining whether or not you want to move into an area like that, double check the HOA fees in those areas. How strict they are and the rules and regulations that they have in place. So for example, something that's really common in the HOAs over here is the rules on parking. Some areas may not allow you to have street parking. And like I mentioned, this can be a positive where it's going to keep when you have these regulations in place, you're going to be able to maintain your property. The seller's going to have to maintain their property. But sometimes those rules can be really strict. So one big thing that we find buyers find painful is when an HOA does not allow street parking. Someone may have a larger family. They may have a family with teenagers who are driving or in-laws who live with them. If you're not able to have street parking in those areas, then you all have to park in the driveway and you have to maneuver that every single day. And that can get really annoying. So how controlling the management may be. So some people feel very strongly they don't want people telling them what they can and cannot do with their property. Some HOAs can be amazing. Sometimes you have a great president and then a new president comes in and they want to enforce all of these new rules, and neighbors and the community can find that really controlling and they may not like that. So if you are the type of person who wants to do what you want with your property, if you don't want someone telling you how to run your property or what you can and can't do, then you may want to avoid an area with an HOA. Essentially how that HOA is run. So what we sometimes find, especially as realtors researching for our clients, when we go into an area, the HOA can be a really high amount. But when you drive through that neighborhood, you can tell that it's actually not being maintained. So you may be paying that monthly fee every single month, but then you're questioning, where is that fee going to? So one of the reasons why you may consider not moving in an area with an HOA is if you're concerned that your money is not going to go towards the HOA. Thanks so much for watching our video. I hope you gained some insight today into HOAs. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.